I will say the one thing about this movie, especially, they don't actually do a lot of magic. It's really telling because there's a lot of points where people are in peril and they treat it like regular humans.
Regular folks.
Key point would be when they're being surrounded by spiders, and the spiders clearly don't like light.
Yep.
Can I get a Lumos?
Give me something.
You're out on the floor.
Welcome back to the Millennial Classics, y'all. On this podcast, we talk about the best and most memorable movies, music, and culture-changing events from our generation. Maburi, how you doing today?
How we doing? I'm doing good. Excited to talk about this movie. Not the best, but it could be way worse. So
I have so many things to say about this movie. Like the Harry Potter movies, I would say they're not the most rewatchable movies. It's like a journey that you have to be going through. Have you ever just sat down and played a Harry Potter movie just like, let's do this right now? Or is it always like an event type thing?
I have to say, there's like different ways to rewatch movies. Some movies I can just, like, for instance, I just rewatched Die Hard 3 last week during Christmas.
Easy rewatch.
Because it's one of my favorite movies, and you can literally just from get-go, you just start and you just watch the whole thing. When I rewatch Lord of the Rings, I actually skip all the Smeagol parts. I just fast forward right through that because I don't give two shits about that part. He's annoying. And on the rewatch, like I don't need to see that. So I just skip ahead. This movie, it's not as fun as Die Hard, but there's no like skipping parts, I'll say.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, there's no like full scenes that are. It's just a long movie, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. I mean, the closest would be Dobby, but those scenes are so short and so few.
But as you can tell, folks, we are doing Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the second movie in this franchise before Maburi. Let's get into this, right? Because we did the Chamber of Secrets first, and you told me something wild that while I was watching this movie kept on rattling in my head. There's no way in hell that the first movie was worse than this movie for you. You said that the first movie was probably your least favorite. Do you still think that?
The thing I like about this is the mystery of it. It's a little bit more serious to the point where sometimes I'm like, yo, this is a kid's movie because like that spider scene is intense. Legitimately, I think would be scary for a young kid. But I like the mystery behind it. The twist, it's like a baby Shyamalan movie kind of in there with the twist that Tom Riddle is Voldemort.
Voldemort, yeah.
You know, the other one, Sorcerer's Stone, it's like they play chess. And then the bad guys on the back of the head of the teacher. It's very like kidsy.
Yeah.
Right?
This one,
it kind of has a bit more action. They fight a snake.
I mean, are these kids actually dying? These kids are petrified. What does that actually mean? It's a fucking ginormous snake.
It does lack the whimsy and the thing of the first one. Like the upbeat, everything's so cool. You're discovering things. But I kind of like the serious tone a bit better.
Okay. Yeah, because it gets more and more serious throughout. And like you said the last time, it gets darker and darker and darker. As you guys know, this movie did come out November 14th, 2002. So before we get into the actual deets, let's get into the Millennial Time Machine. And I'd like to walk you guys through a day in my life, our lives. If you were to jump out of the Millennial Time Machine in 2002, you would see me waking up wearing the most baggy clothing in the history of the world. Like everyone was, at least in my house, the most baggy I could get away living with some African parents. And then you would see out in the world folks with the iPod second generation. Maburi, this was the iPod with clickers. You know, I've never owned or even seen one of these because it was so expensive when the iPods first came out that they became usable for most people when it was the circle with the
wheel.
With the wheel, the one that actually like rolled.
Yeah.
But
the first one had like a FireWire port, if I remember correctly. It had like literally plug-in.
This was still back in the day when I was using CDs, and DJ Faisal Faze was lime wiring the shit, burning all the CDs. And the song that hit, the song that blew up, the song that exploded in 2002, specifically November, was "Lose Yourself" by Eminem.
It is vomit on his sweater already, mom's spaghetti.
And it did tag along with the movie 8 Mile. I don't know if you guys know how big of a deal this movie was, but to the chagrin of Dr. Umar Johnson, this song alone put Eminem in the conversation for greatest to ever do it. Like, I mean, this song took over the globe, took over the planet. This was the biggest thing that's happened in music, especially for white rappers, than ever before. Grand Theft Auto Vice City was the game to play on PlayStation 2. I remember specifically going home and opening that CD case. You know how you would have all those cheat codes written down?
Yeah.
Of course, you needed it. You have to use it.
Oh my God. Yeah, you had to do like XX triangle square. Yeah.
R1, R2, turn around,
Um,
left, right. You be doing all these jerky motions. And then to finish it off, the movies that we were watching in 2002. The second, The Lord of the Rings, obviously, Harry Potter, Spider-Man, the very first Spider-Man, the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Star Wars Episode 2.
I don't like sand.
And I'm going down these lists, and number 5 was Men in Black 2. Mumbury, like, I really do feel like we've been just going over this nostalgia bait with the movies for like forever. I don't feel like we get new movies anymore. It's all like overused IP, old stuff. Like,
I mean, we talked about this when we talked about a movie review, but I just saw a graph of the highest grossing debut films, like the highest grossing non-sequels, and 2023 has 3 of them.
Wait,
that's
seriously?
how long it's been. That's how long it's been.
Oh, shit.
Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Super Mario Bros. Barbie and Super Mario are in the top like 10. They're like 5 and
That's
6.
craziness. It's crazy.
That just shows you. And the last time we had 3 new movies, that was like 1975 or something.
Do you think that this is like just Hollywood being super conservative, only wanting to do the things that actually work 1000%? Or do you think it's like a truly creative thing? Like people.
No, I think 100% right now it's superhero fatigue. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I was 100% watched every Marvel movie. I stopped a while back, and then the last one I saw Quantumania, and it was literally the worst Marvel movie I've seen in a long time.
It's horrible.
And
horrible.
then Thor 4, which came out last year, I thought would be good, was bad.
Horrible.
Which was like a shock because all the Thor movies have been pretty good. And then obviously you have Warner Brothers and all Sony, and they're all trying to come up with things. I think there was like a Blue Beetle movie.
I haven't seen that yet.
I don't even know what that is. So we're at the point where people are just like, there's too many superheroes. There's a Madam Web movie. I don't know what that is.
Did you see Aquaman 2?
No.
I haven't seen it either. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't mind waiting until it comes out on HBO.
And then they're all going to come out on HBO.
100%.
Marvel started using, like, the TV shows are getting worse and worse. So, and now you need to watch the TV shows to get what's happening in the movies. And you need to watch the movies to get what's happening in the TV shows. It's just now it's becoming like a job to watch all this stuff.
Thanks for no thanks.
I think people are getting tired of that. So when people started getting tired of that, now all these different movies that are a bit different start to shine. Oppenheimer, Barbie.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right.
Even though it didn't do that good.
Hopefully this continues.
All that to say that all those movies that I mentioned in the top 5 for the grossing for 2002, it feels like a list of movies that we would be watching today. And it makes me a little sad, to be honest, going down that top 5. And it's like, was this in 2002 or can it be in 2023? And it just feels so like this is where we've been. So hopefully the next 5, 10, 15 years from now, we're not looking at the top 5 movies of this year and being like, it's the exact same list in 2033, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, that is your Millennial Time Machine, Mumbury, the makings and ratings. Take it away.
Okay, so this actually came out to some pretty solid reviews. Critics loved it. They loved the performances, and Lockhart's performance especially. 82% Rotten Tomatoes, made $926 million box office, which is great.
Diggity.
Right, so this, if it came out now, it'd be better than another movie. Budget was $100 million. They literally started filming this 1 week after the first one came out. So that just tells you what schedule these were on when they were coming out, because it was the biggest movie, then the next one needs to come out. And then it was just, and honestly, they do a pretty good job of that because the kids look pretty much the same.
Exactly.
And you don't get into this thing where it's like someone's like 6 feet tall and it's 13. Director is Christopher Columbus. So this is a same director as the first one. And then this is the last time he did these 2 movies. I didn't write down all the actors again because we kind of did that already. I didn't want to do it, but I do want to shout out 2 that were new to this movie that have stand-up performances. Toby Jones is Dobby. We know Tony Jones. He's I think he's Zemo in Captain America.
Oh,
He's a short
dope.
guy. He's in
Yes.
Hunger Games.
Yes.
He's in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Great actor. He's in a Sherlock episode. He plays a bad guy. Kenneth Branagh. He plays Lockhart in this. He does Hamlet, the detective, and all the Murder on the Orient movies. He's also in Oppenheimer. Those are the only two new guys. They both kill it.
I don't know. Did Chris Columbus? I know he's the director, but I watched this interview with JK Rowling. He wasn't also the screenwriter? You wouldn't happen. Oh no, it's not. I'm looking at it right now.
No, Steve Kloves.
Steve Kloves. This is just for the folks who have read the books and then watched the movies. Steve Kloves does such a good job because there's so much stuff, and I'll point some of it out throughout the scenes, but they do a fantastic job from book to movie.
Columbus did Mrs. Doubtfire, Home Alone, and then Rent, the movie, and The Help.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good list.
Yeah, it's all right.
Didn't The Help win an Oscar?
Octavia Spencer got nominated or won. We can jump right into the scenes.
Please, let's jump into the scenes.
This movie's worst character is Dobby. Just annoying.
Do you really think so? Do you really, really think so?
Yeah, just annoying from the get-go.
Insanely
Tough
annoying.
watch. Every
Very
time you watch
difficult.
it, you're just like, why is this dude bullying a kid that he wants to help?
Doesn't make much sense.
Then Dobby must do it, sir.
The actions of the Dursleys always confuses me in this movie because just to start right out and from the very beginning of the movie, they hate Harry Potter.
Hate him.
It's also established that he could have had his whole room this entire time. They just made him sleep under the stairs for no reason in the first movie. Where's child services? Where's child protective services? If you walk in and there's an empty room upstairs and the kid is sleeping under the stairs, I don't get how that would even be allowed.
Yeah. Or if you're walking down the street and you see a man screwing on a metal fucking barred fence.
Yeah, and that is so many red flags everywhere.
Yeah.
He hates Harry's guts. For some reason, he wants Harry to stay. I just don't understand that. If you hate you hate him so much that you actually would rather him be miserable with you and both you guys be miserable than him to just leave
and let you guys be. Yeah. But speaking of that room, it was a beautiful quote that I had mentioned in that intro. We even let you have Dudley's second bedroom out of the goodness of our hearts.
Bruh.
Can you imagine? When Dobby drops the cake on the lady, I'm sorry, my nephew is very disturbed. That's why we keep him upstairs.
Yeah. In 2023, he'd be like, he's neurodivergent.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
So he also goes, you just interrupted me. I was just getting to my Japanese golfer joke. So I then was like, I kind of want to hear what this Japanese golfer joke is. So I looked it up. I went online, did some digging, found a subreddit where they threw out some jokes that he could have said.
Yeah.
So I'll just throw them out for you.
Let me hear them.
See.
Because it wasn't in the book. There was no Japanese golfer joke.
All right. So a California businessman, while in Japan for some business meetings and free rounds of golf, arrived in Tokyo a day earlier than expected. Feeling lonely that evening, he employed the services of a beautiful young Japanese girl to be his companion for the evening.
Good for him.
Although the Japanese girl spoke very little English and the businessman spoke no Japanese, their passion roared, and in the heat of the moment, she began yelling, "Gamasu, Gamasu." Hearing this, the Californian knew he had pleased his female Japanese friend and soon afterwards went to sleep. The next day, while playing golf with his Japanese business colleagues, one of the Japanese partners holed his shot from 170 yards away. Everyone went crazy and began yelling excitedly in Japanese. Wanting to impress his friends, the Californian joined in and began yelling, "Gamasu, Gamasu." Suddenly, everyone became quiet. After a moment of silence, one of the Japanese turned to him and asked, "Wrong hole? What do you mean wrong hole?"
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, good for them. I guess.
I don't think he would have said that one in front of the kid and the wife, but a little wrong hole joke.
I don't know how that works in when you try to impress your employer, but sure. So the end of that scene, right? When he's getting pulled out of the house with the car. That's a new scene for you, I'm assuming.
I honestly said you could start this movie arriving
at Ron's house.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said we could just start there.
We
know the Dursleys are assholes.
Exactly.
And I guess you need to have the important thing of like Dobby stopping them from getting on the train and them stealing the car. But that whole scene just reeks of like, oh, we want to make this a ride at Universal Studios in 5 years. So we're gonna have a funky car ride following a train. Yeah, doesn't really do that much for me.
Yeah. But you also had the part where Dobby's over there stealing his letters, right? And making sure he doesn't get any letters from his friends. So it's like Dobby is doing the wildest things to try to prevent Harry from going to school. He gives him no information and he literally like physically harms him and puts him in these situations where the Dursleys who hate his guts want to now kill him. It's like, it truly is the worst way to help. It truly is the worst way to help. But then, he goes to Ron's house, and I absolutely love this part of the movie. You talk about like the car ride being something that you could definitely see as a ride in Disney. Like if you go to the Hogwarts world in Disney World, it didn't look like too magical where it seemed unreal. It looked like a place you can go to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that house.
No, I get what you're saying.
Exactly, like a place.
It looks like people could live there.
Exactly. And it seemed nice. It seemed homey. The way it looked from the outside was dope. It was a really nice homey thing. The knitting on its own, the scrubbing of the pan on its own. I loved it all. I liked all of those little touches.
I mean, this is a classic trope because Harry is a 1%er, but we can't hate him because he's an orphan, because he gets to that house and he's like, I think it's brilliant. But look at this dude. I mean, he gets everything given to him. And the next scene, they go to Diagon Alley. He gets free books.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker just takes them. Why don't you just give them to your broke friends?
Famous Harry Potter. Can't even go to a bookshop without making the front page.
And you buy your own books, you bum. This dude has, he literally has stacks of gold.
Legit gold.
Stacks of gold. Yeah. And he's never like, yo, Ron, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you for these gifts.
Thanks for looking out.
Thanks for rescuing me from my prison. That was like, nah, Juan, run that dog shit wand all year. I'm not going to mention anything. It's like, what are you talking about? But yeah, it is cool. It is nice that Harry sees all this stuff and you kind of be like, I mean, Harry would probably give all the money away to have a family anyway. But yeah, it is cool to see how the Weasleys are. Yeah.
And then Mr. Weasley, Arthur Weasley comes in and asks about the rubber ducky. I thought that was nice and cute. It was nice. It was nice being at the Weasleys' home. But then after that is when they have to end up flying to school. And you saying you're not a fan of the flight. You're not a fan of the car ride.
Yeah, it's just you see it once you see it. There's no like extra to see, There's no extra to be gained.
Yeah. A couple of things just about the flight, like the CGI in the movie, specifically with Dobby and this flying of the car. I mean, towards at the end of the movie with the snake, we could talk about it again, but I don't think it's not even hard to watch. It's like, okay, I can tell how bad the CGI was, but it's like, it's watchable. I think it's pretty decent.
I thought the CGI was pretty good.
Yeah.
There's just a couple points where it really shows maybe they had to cut some corners. The Quidditch scenes are amazing. Still look great. Yeah. There's one scene where Harry goes into Riddle's book, and that CGI is
when
atrocious.
He gets sucked in. Yeah.
That CGI is atrocious.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But I think most of it aged pretty well for 2002.
And a couple more things about the flight over with the car ride. It's the first time watching this movie where I heard the cracking, like Ron's voice in this movie cracks a bunch. And I think Harry's a couple of times. And I thought it was such a good touch for them to leave it in the movie, to have their voice cracking. I don't know if you even noticed it, but also the wildest thing, when Harry is about to fall out of a car with the door open and Ron reaches his hand to grab him, Harry has the balls not to grab his hand for his life, right? He touches his hand and says, no, I won't, because your hand is sweaty. He's about to die and he's complaining about sweaty hands. The way they disrespect the Weasleys in this movie is insane.
They disrespect poor people left and right in this movie.
Before we move on, if you notice them when they went to Diagon Alley, I know that they used the flu powder, so it was like
that's crazy.
But the way that they look, bro, they look
like chimney sweeps.
That's what I'm like, you guys can't wash your face, rinse your face before. I mean, it's
mom would like not have wipes for their fucking face. You can't be walking around in public like that.
Yeah, with dirt on your face. And Lucius Malfoy is like the fucking Weasleys.
Dude, the Malfoy is rolling through. Elite.
Gang,
I mean, just you can't talk about my family like that to my face.
Yeah.
Like that. Just shitting on everybody. Draco takes a lot of L's left and right, but I think he's one of the better child actors in this movie.
Oh, for sure.
What did I say?
Sorry, father.
Right? Like, I thought Neville was much more fun in the first movie. This movie, he just seemed like they only made him say silly things or outlandish things.
I ignored one from my gran once. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Or him like being the fainting in the class and stuff. Draco, like, he holds his own. He's a great child actor.
We got to talk about Lockhart because that's coming up, and they get introduced, and then they go to his first class, and that's when Neville gets brought up to the top. He's so incompetent.
It's crazy.
From rip, it's not like he knows the basics, and then like when he gets into stuff complicated, he gets twist and turn. He just talks a lot of shit and then can't do anything, to the point where it's like, how did he even get this job? Like, in the job interview, he didn't like confound Dumbledore or McGonagall. They would have known he was completely incompetent.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like a magic school, so wouldn't they be like okay, show me doing your your defense against the dark arts magic, show me an example.
Yeah.
You don't just get the job based on the things you say you wrote in a book. I mean, it's ridiculous. But then this goes back to what we were talking about in the first one. It goes back on Dumbledore's head. This dude is just,
incompetent. I honestly think there's a scene here where like Lucius comes in and is like, yo, we gotta fire your ass. And you got to be suspended. And I was like, yeah, he's got to be suspended. Kids are getting petrified left and right. And this dude is just out here being like, oh, it's dark
Please
times
be careful.
for Hogwarts. Yeah. It's dark times for you.
Wait, for real though. For real. Wait, but let's take this scene by scene, okay? You're talking about the first time that Gilderoy does his class, right? His intro to the class.
It makes it maybe 30 seconds before he has to run back in his room.
Ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous.
These kids would just tell their parents, and the parents would be like, what are these kids learning if the dude is just running to his room? He wouldn't. I honestly don't think he would make it to winter break.
There's no way. It's not possible. And the craziest thing is,
I'll ask you three to just nip the rest of them back into their cage.
he runs into his room, grabbing like the pictures of himself, and then he looks at the kids and he's like, I'll let you guys solve this. Like, how is this a thing? How is it a thing? I do have to say, for those who read the book makes it a whole lot more plausible, right? There's like some if, ands, or buts, right? Like, maybe he's not completely stupid, but in the movie they have to, because they can't spend enough time just showing how possible.
I think I think they could have made him a bit more competent. And maybe he knows like one charm, like he knows the memory stuff, but maybe they had him do like maybe the duel with Snape, he doesn't just get his ass kicked. Like, he knows a couple of things, so he can hold his own a little bit, even though he's full of shit most of the time.
So sad Steve Jobs died of ligma.
Who the hell is Steve Jobs?
Ligma balls.
But let me ask you this before we move on. You drive a flying car to school. You have regular human being seed. You crash it into like a very important tree at school. Snape is like, these kids need to be expelled, and then McGonagall gives them detention. Isn't that insane? Like, you think they deserve like a suspension is like something, right? Something real, not a.
Well, how do you suspend someone at
Hogwarts, at a boarding school? That's a great question. You send them back.
I just think this part has always confused me about Harry Potter. The world in general, and the rules that govern the magic and the muggles and the interwinding, because they seem to have this thing where there's magical land, right? But then there's a lot of places where they intermingle and they just walk next to each other. But there's also times when they're just out in the open, flying wands, he was like, you could have just jeopardized the entire Wizarding world. But I'm like, how?
Yeah, how, bro? Come on, how?
I'm so confused. If you have the ability to make everything invisible or whatever, why wouldn't you just make every magical car invisible?
Done and done. Problem solved.
I just don't get it. I just physically don't get the ruls. Like, if one flying car can jeopardize the entire Wizarding world, then I don't
what are we doing here? I mean,
I mentioned earlier, there's a solid mystery, hair of the thing, beware, or whatever. And then the Chamber of Secrets is open. Very Dan Brown mystery type deal with it that feels a lot more grown up than the first one. Number one, it's written in blood.
Yep.
There's a sense of Harry's got to have to solve this himself with his friends, then that's why I like it a bit more than the first one.
And they do it in a really smart way, right? Because obviously at the end you get that the snake was doing it, and the reason that Harry's always just there in time is because he can hear the snake. It's not just like, oh, he just so happens to be at the petrifying every single time.
Right.
So they do that well, and that's why Harry's going to have to be the one to figure it out. Because like Ron says, hearing voices even in the wizarding world is considered crazy.
The hole in this whole thing, well, besides the fact that all these paintings on the wall can't see shit, apparently.
Yeah, they can see everything except for the snake that's fucking terrorizing.
Besides that little plot point, none of the teachers are experts at anything. This is what always gets me. Hermione solves the case. If Hermione was Harry Potter, all these books would be about like 3 chapters. But I just don't get why you 2 petrified kids, you just don't be like, let me just go to the weird animal book and just see what petrifies people.
Exactly.
The list can't be more than 5. It can't be more than 5 animals out here that you look at them and they petrify you.
Yeah.
I'm astounded that it, like, because the basilisk literally fulfills everything that has happened. And I think anyone that knows anything about mythical beasts would be like, that's a basilisk.
That's a basilisk.
And I just, from the fact that no one gets it.
Yeah.
Dumbledore is like, this is just a stumper.
It's a mystery. We can't.
And then their solution is like, yo, everyone will get escorted. I'm like, dude, if you got to escort kids back to their dorms every night, shut down the school.
From class to class, even.
Shut down the school.
Exactly. Let's find the culprit first, please.
Another reason I really like this movie. This movie has pretty much the most Quidditch.
I think so.
It has a lot of Quidditch in this movie.
Yeah.
And I really like that. The first one,
I think this is peak Quidditch in the series. Yeah.
Right. The first one has to explain a lot. And then obviously the Goblet of Fire, the book, has the whole World Cup part, and that's really fun. But as far as Quidditch actually being shown in the movie, this one has it. And I really like that. I think Quidditch is, we talked about if we would do a remake, and I mentioned that having a Quidditch TV show, I think Quidditch would
be the way to go.
Yeah, me too. I think that's the way we have
you
to
get everything. You get the magic, you get the action, you get like the tension. It's like you can't lose doing Quidditch. And like you said, it was the part of the CGI or like the green screen or whatever they had to do that looked the absolute best.
Yeah, Dobby, just a buzzkill in this movie. I know they had to have him in there, and I know he's like trying to save him, but dude, every time this dude shows up in the movie, you're just like rolling your eyes.
So you talk about after he gets his arm broken and then he has to go to the hospital and then he comes back. Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird.
Lockhart's hilarious with that arm shit though.
Yeah,
absolutely hilarious. Like that would get you kicked out of school as a teacher.
Brachiam. Emendo.
Bruh. Like that one thing. Could you imagine?
Yeah. He's like, fix my bones. There's no more bones in your arm, right? He's like, look, I fixed it. At least you're not feeling any pain. And then the nurse she's like, are you crazy? It's going to hurt so much more for me to grow bones in your arm than it is. Of course you get kicked out. This dude is useless. He's ridiculous. The whole polyjuice thing. One of the key issues of all these movies is something bad happens and Harry has 2 suspects. Snape or Draco? Somebody else. Those are the only 2 suspects. I mean, he doesn't stop this shit the entire time he's at Hogwarts.
Well, in that case, it's absolutely, positively, undeniably gotta be red herring.
Those are the only 2 suspects. So obviously the Chamber of Secrets is open. Even Hermione's like, dude, Draco's an idiot. Like, he's not the heir of Slytherin. Yeah. But Harry's like, no, we have to find out. He's got the answers. They do this whole polyjuice thing, and they go undercover, it's a funny part of the movie. You introduce the Moaning Myrtle. The foreshadowing in this movie and the breadcrumbs they leave is pretty good because that ends up being the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. Yes. One of the greatest lines in the movie is when Crabbe or Goyle is talking to Draco and he's like, why are you wearing glasses? And he's like, I was reading. And Draco looks at him and says, you can read? I was dying, bro. Yeah, that was improv too. Draco forgot his line, just made up like, I didn't know you could read. It's so good.
Why are you wearing glasses?
Reading.
I didn't know you could read.
I have to think to myself, Crabbe and Goyle are legitimate idiots. The way they play them too, it makes me feel honestly bad for them. These two kids come out with hands full of donuts.
Yeah, they're like on the spectrum. That's what they're moving like.
They see two muffins hanging from the fucking magical, and they look at each other, cheese and stuffing their faces with muffins.
Yeah, it's like they don't no critical thinking.
Watch. Yeah. Bro, I'm like,
it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
These sad kids. But yeah, they get the information. It is pretty good.
And they find, they actually succeed. It's one of the things where they succeed and they get out of there and nothing really bad happens.
Yeah.
A lot of snakes and spiders in this movie, I'll say.
Exactly.
Snakes and spiders come up a lot. And I'm not many people are a fan of either of those things. The duel. So we mentioned this earlier. I wish there was more duels. I know it's kind of hard to put them in movies. And I just
is it though? Is it hard to put it in a movie? I really don't think it is. I mean, they have a dueling club. There's many reasons that people can duel. And like, all they have to do is like, this class, we're learning how to disarm. This class, we're learning how to, I don't know, turn the person's whatever. Like, I don't think it's that hard to do.
I would love a scene in the first or second one where it's not, duels aren't just like one shot, where they're actually like going back and forth. I mean,
Ron legitimately says that. You did mention how shitty the CGI was when he gets sucked into the book, because the book happens and then he goes follow the spiders, right? Because after he gets sucked into the book, that's where he sees Aragog in the history memories, and then when he comes out of the book, they go follow the spiders. But that's after, like, there's so much that happens in that little bit, because he gets sucked into the book, he comes out of the book, and then Hermione gets petrified, and then Ron and Harry have to go into the woods, right, to follow the spiders.
Yeah, I honestly, this just leads me to believe that wizards are just really shitty people. And they lock people up. Yo, honestly, the fact that they were like, yo, Hagrid, you're going to Azkaban. What proof do we have? Absolutely nothing. But we know you were around 50 years ago as a student. So we gotta lock you up. I'm like, Azkaban is crazy.
You're going to Brazil!
Getting sent to Azkaban with Dementors just on the like slight suspicion that you might have something to do with the beast. I mean, this shit makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
You think about it for more than 30 seconds and you're like, what is going on here? Meanwhile, they got the head of the Ministry of Magic just showing up being like, Azkaban, go.
You're out of here. Straight
and just goes to show Dumbledore ain't doing shit. Dumbledore's like, yeah, he's my guy. He didn't do anything. And they're still like, no, we got to take him. And Dumbledore's like, all right, fine. You got to take him.
Yeah. And you can't work here anymore. All right, fine. I guess. I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard. But we have to talk about the spiders. When they do go to the spiders after Hagrid gets taken away to prison. The car. I mean, the gas efficiency on this. It's been what, 4 or 5 months, right? Since they got into.
It's been hiding out in the forest for a while. The car saves them pretty good. Aragorn he does that villain thing of huge exposition dump right before you die.
Yes.
I think a spider would have just killed him. Because what are we explaining? You explain your food? What? Answer him questions before you kill him. This is a part where, use some magic. And spiders are slow, and then they're fast. They're slow, and then they're fast. I can't tell how the spiders are fast as a car, but then they beat them to the. I don't know. I don't want to ask no questions. That scene where Ron gets like attacked by a spider and it goes around his neck.
Yep.
And nothing happens to him.
It's like, what's happening right here?
Yeah, that's a scary scene. Like, I would have probably cut that. Like, that's scary for kids, I feel like. They get back and Hermione's pretty much petrified. She's
petrified, yep.
But she's done all the work.
Everything. They don't have to do anything.
The entire case. At this point, I think if you just showed that to McGonagall, I think that the movie's over. These professors would have been like, thank you, go back to your room. We'll look into this. And
nothing would have happened.
Yeah.
3 petrified kids later. The only thing is, unless Dumbledore does have parcel mouth and can do the snake talking, no one would be able to get into the Chamber of Secrets because you have to do the parcel mouth talking to open up that thing in the bathroom.
Ideally, what you should do is when they open it, Ron should run and like they should open it. Harry and the other dude go in there, and Ron runs back to get
help. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what should have happened.
Yeah.
That's what should have happened. Or they could have also just
Ron doesn't even have a wand.
Yeah,
So
they could have just left Gilderoy and just been like going. They could have went in there. But Gilderoy wouldn't have went for help. He wouldn't have went for help. That dude is
Gilderoy
slimiest,
the finale. It's a finale.
The whole finale.
He meets Tom Riddle. He does the reveal in the air. Tacky. That's probably the worst part of the.
Yeah, well, you don't have to
worst
write
part
it
of the
out,
mystery. But I could. That's like you're a kid and you get your brain blows up. You're like, holy shit!
Oh my god, he moved the letters around. Is Salazar Slytherin? Is he the guy who set up the Chamber of Secrets? He's the guy who built it. I mean, he put some real fucking work into something two people could get into, bro.
Yeah, I know. I just know Salazar. Kanye would have been a fan. Kanye would have been a fan of Salazar Slytherin. He would have made sick Slytherin merch. You would have lost that Adidas contract.
Bro, the entire basement floor. And again, Dumbledore is the worst. I mean, how does he not know there's a city below his school? That place is humongous. Yeah.
I don't even get that snake is massive. How is it crawling through pipes and no one knows anything?
Yeah.
There's a plumber somewhere that's like,
what's
these water
Finch
pipes
doing?
are massive.
Yeah.
Who's the plumber for Hogwarts? These pipes are massive. Yeah, we got fucking Mario running around these pipes doing bullshit.
It's insane.
Salazar Slytherin too. I'll just mention this. If you're going into business with 3 other of the most prominent magicians ever, and you're starting a school, I feel like when you start a school, the first question would be, who do we want to come to this school?
That's the one.
Who builds an entire fucking school, spends all that time and effort, and then turns around and is like, oh yeah, so I'm thinking we let everyone in. And you're like, what? I thought we were just doing purebloods. What's going on here? How does that even come up 5 years down the road? That would be day one. Slytherin would have been like, nah, fuck y'all. I'm building my own school over here with just purebloods. That would have just solved that whole thing.
And I do have to say, when Professor McGonagall, way earlier in the movie, does the explanation of the 4 greatest wizards and she tells that story, I do like that scene. She explains it really well.
Yeah, that's it. Solid movie.
How can you say that's it? What did you think of the ending? What did you think of Harry magically getting the sword and stabbing the huge thing in the head with the phoenix coming in just in time and poking the eyes out? How'd you feel about all of that?
This is one of those movies, I'll say, if it was just a standalone movie, that ending would have been like a 6 out of 10. But because when you finish the whole series and you understand what was actually happening. And at play here, I think it goes up to a 7, even 8, because then you start really admiring like the groundwork that was being laid super early, the Horcruxes, the magical items that can defeat the Horcruxes, that are weaving their way through, and you really are like, yo, JK Rowling really like had a banger here, because you look at the opposite way, right? You see George R.R. Martin still trying to come out with like the 6th book of Game of Thrones. He's so far behind because he's trying to close
piece
all these
together.
gaps.
He's trying to put all those things together, which is very difficult.
Right. And JK Rowling, meanwhile, is like had a plan. Even in 2, the groundwork's being laid. The first one's kind of on its own because
it's just an introduction to the world.
Right.
Yeah.
But the second one, it's like, dude, this is actually leading up to the 7th book, and it's important.
And you can see it clearly, clear as day. Even from the first, but definitely with the Horcruxes and all of the things, they do play major roles. And you're so right, because I think that is the major complaint right now with I know you said it's superhero fatigue, but even when you do watch the Marvels, it's like Infinity was fantastic because when you get to that end game, when you get to Infinity War, it's like it all comes together. All of it makes sense. So I guess I'll give it more credit, because I was saying that this was, I don't want to say the worst scene, but I wasn't a fan while I was watching it. I don't know. It just didn't hit right. It just didn't hit right for me. And especially with Voldemort doing all of this explaining and yelling at the snake. You can smell him. You should just do it. This is a fucking basilisk. Well, why is it listening to Riddle over here?
Because he's a heir of Slytherin, but also because I also like the fact that, Quirrell, Voldemort's the back of a head.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to fear the back of the head, I mean, he was covered up by a shawl for 99% of that movie.
Of the movie, yeah.
This movie, I like the fact that Voldemort's here. He just has no power behind him.
Gotcha.
So he's doing all the villain shit that, he's moving like a villain, but he knows and it must infuriate him. The whole series, he's kind of moving in the shadows and he has to use people, but those people inherently fear him.
Yeah.
And they're like, out of fear, they're helping him. This time, it's like he's a memory. He's his own Horcrux, and he's trying to use that, but he can't actually like harm Harry himself. And I really like that aspect to it, because
when you describe it like that, it does help a lot. It helps that scene quite a bit, because I was like, it just seems a little silly. And also, like, as badass as it was for Harry to do the stabbing to end the basilisk's life, the Phoenix and the Sorting Hat, do you think it's too coincidental? Do you think that it made sense? Did you enjoy that?
I think it's such a cop-out for Dumbledore. This motherfucker needs to go to the board of governors. He needs to be tried for some shit. Because, I mean, flu powder down there, mother. Show up, apparate, do whatever you need to do. What are you doing? What's your job? First off, if it's...
He leaves it for a 12-year-old kid to figure out.
This makes no sense. He's the most like, if Dumbledore showed up, he could probably wrap that whole shit up in 2 seconds.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, he's like, no, you getting stabbed, you getting bit.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
He leaves his words of wisdom. I'm never gone if people believe in me. Go fuck yourself, bro.
Jesus.
But yeah. And that is the end of the movie. Do you have any favorite scenes or like absolutely worst scenes for you?
Favorite scene, Quidditch. Worst scene is all the Dobby scenes. And I will say, I'll ask you about yours in a second, but I will say, if they're remaking this entire movie series into shows, so every movie is going to be a season. And I will say, this one feels like one of the key ones that gets fleshed out a bit better. Because
there's so much missing.
There's a lot of Quidditch missing. There's a lot of Quidditch missing. There's a lot of Snape Harry interactions that just go missing.
Yep.
So you don't really get that. Why does Snape and Harry hate each other? They kind of just passed each other by.
Exactly.
But I think this is one of those movies that would get helped a lot later on down the road. The movies kind of just go lockstep with. I think they kind of find their groove. And they find the right stuff to keep and leave. But I think the first two are kind of so focused on being kids' movies that it's
almost hard, because it starts to get way too intense. My favorite scene by far was the Quidditch scene. I don't have like a least favorite, like I think this is the worst. It's just, I don't know. I think the movie, like, there was aspects of all, like, multiple scenes that I was like that pulled me out of the movie way more than I thought was necessary, but I don't have one worse scene. A couple of quotes that I do want to tell you. I think there's just one because I told you the other ones. When Gilderoy first walked into his class, he says, me, I'm telling the class that it's him, Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League, and 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. But I don't talk about that. I didn't get rid of the abandoned banshee by smiling at her. And then it's amazing. It's amazing work. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. One of my favorite lines. I do like that. I don't know if you have any quotables, but if you don't, any final thoughts on Chamber of Secrets?
I think it gets slept on a lot. I think a lot of people don't like it. I will say, I think it's underrated. I think a lot more people hate it. And I think at the end of the day, it shouldn't deserve all the hate it gets.
Yeah. And like, I hear what you're saying about it being a building block, but even if it's a building block or the foundation of like the future of like book 7 or the a movie 7, right? Even so, it's still a movie on its own right, and it has to live up to being
It is a long movie. I'll give it that too.
It's a long movie, and like, I'm on the opposite end of you. I honestly think that the first is much better because at least the first you're getting introduced, so all of the stuff feels cool and new and exciting. This movie, it felt very choppy to me. And like, I don't know if I'm getting like mind melded because I'm also reading the book. So when you read the books, everything seems so seamless and it makes sense and it flows right. But then when you watch the movie, it just feels like, all right, this next scene, we're jumping into this. How did they decide about the polyjuice potion? When did they learn about this? Is this something that everyone, it It's a lot.
It's also that's one of those things too where time is really hard to get in the movies,
right.
It's condensed in a year.
Exactly.
You can't tell if this was actually happened next week or in a month.
Exactly.
When they go like the Polyjuice is in a month, that really means nothing to you as a viewer. Whereas if it was a TV show, you could actually start the Polyjuice potion in episode 2 and then have it be ready in episode 5.
Exactly.
And then you get the idea of what's conspired in it.
That's what this movie needed.
But
but it's hard because you can't have this book be 2-3 movies because it'd be a 19 movie series. It wouldn't make any sense. So like, listen, I'm not like the script writer. I don't know. I'm just telling you, I did enjoy 1 more so than 2. And it just felt a little choppy for me. This movie felt a little choppy for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you guys are listening to this and you want to hear the book review for Chamber of Secrets, you got to subscribe to our podcast because the book reviews and all future book reviews will be podcast exclusive. The next episode the next show we do is going to be my favorite book and my favorite movie, Prisoner of Azkaban. I am truly excited. I already started reading it. Yeah, those Dementors in Azkaban, bro, just reading it gives me the shivers. You talk about how this movie gets real. That movie, I'm excited to read.
I think it's the best made movie out of all of them.
All right, until next time, catch you on the flip, guys. Deuces.